I hope you enjoy this episode of A Hard Road, but to see more stories from our travels in Trump's America, including the 2020 presidential campaign, just click the like and subscribe button. Our trip across the Midwest began in Minnesota, the cold country of the American Northwest, right on the Canadian border. In fact, when Bob Dylan sang about the girl from the North Country, he was referring to this state. Despite America's recent good economic times, this agricultural state was at the centre of the trade war between the United States and China, putting the economic recovery and the livelihood of Minnesotan farmers at risk. But did they still support Donald Trump, or were they pushing for a return to the Chinese trade they previously enjoyed? That's what we wanted to find out, and you may be surprised by the responses of some of these farmers. We drove from Minneapolis across Minnesota to Breckenridge, a farming community right on the North Dakota border. Here we visited soybean farmers Vinay and Mike Hasbargen. Over dinner we discussed the impact on their lives of Trump's trade war with China.
Soybeans has been targeted by the Chinese, and we're huge soybean producers in this area. I believe in North Dakota in particular, I think it's like 60% of all the production goes through the Pacific Northwest and onto China. So it's in the last 2 months there have been no orders out of the Pacific Northwest to go to China.
So last year, how much were you getting for a bushel of soy?
What,
Roughly.
$9 to $10?
$9.50 to $10.
Yeah.
And since the changes?
Well, it took a $2 hit right away.
$2.
And it's retreated now to about $1.50 maybe.
Right. And that's the thing, you know, they said, well, okay, we got to be patriots about this as farmers. We have to be, you know, patriotism is all well and good, but it doesn't always pay the bills.
So you've had a really good season.
Yes, the crop is good.
And it's sitting in silos.
Yep.
Without a buyer.
Right.
And so how long will that crop survive like that?
Well, I think a year would probably be.
Well, potentially it could survive easily a year with irrigation.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, what are you going to do with next year's crop if
Yeah.
your silos are all full?
Yeah, and
To say nothing about what are you going to do to pay the bills?
Right.
And this policy has been really discriminatory against the smaller farmer because they don't have the silos or the grain storage capacity that larger, more established farmers do.
Early the next morning, we drove to Wahpeton, North Dakota to meet with local farmers and to get their views on the tariff dispute.
China expects everybody else to pay what do we pay? A 25% import tax on just about everything we buy from China. Yet when we ship something to them, they pay a 2.5% import tax. So they want all this subsidy from a tax standpoint. They want all the tax advantages, but when you flip the tables, it's unfair. And they want to retaliate like things aren't right. And I think that's probably what Trump is trying to do is level the playing field all over. And you know, since Trump has come in, and I'm kind of I think he's done a fantastic job also, even though, you know, agriculture he's probably hurt us in the short run.
You know, a lot of farmers have marketed some of their crop, and then
Spoken like a true banker.
So they've locked in the price.
they were able to lock in the price.
Right.
And so it's not going to hurt this year.
Mm-hmm.
However, next year it could hurt if Trump and China don't figure out an agreement.
It's going to be interesting. This next 3 months, I think, are going to be critical for us.
And I don't know if we'll ever recover export-wise. I don't know if we'll ever recover with China. It's going to take a long time.
Trump had a lot of, farmers support him in the last election, and I firmly believe that he's going to figure out a way to deal with China and get something done before the next election.
Trump is, I like what he's doing as far as, but this isn't a New York real estate deal either. This could have long-term effects on us.
St. Charles is located in southeast Minnesota's cattle country. Here we stayed with the Keller family at their stud farm. We spoke to Seth and Ralph, advocates for stronger international trade.
Well, we're a family. Let's see, I'm a 5th generation farmer. We raise purebred cattle and sell them across the country. So these are all of our replacement heifers for next year. A lot of breeding, embryo transfer, and marketing that goes into us when we sell our cattle. And then we also do a lot of feeders and fat cattle. So just kind of a family operation where we're looking to grow a little bit.
You've been pioneers in international relations out of Minnesota, sending your cattle to Cuba, to Chinese come here. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
We were fortunate enough to export the first shorthorn cattle to China. We started in shorthorns in 1918. Then our family went to Cuba. Seth's given keynote addresses there when you were, 10, 11?
Something like that, 6th grade.
Did you meet anyone interested in that?
Yeah, knowing Fidel Castro, and that was pretty unique to meet him, and very intelligent, very enthusiastic about agriculture and just the health of his country. So it was a different side of him that than what you read here in the States, but it was something that we'll remember forever.
You mentioned China. Has the tariff war with China had any effect on your business yet? Do you see it being a problem?
Commodity prices are down because of the tariffs. Our business, breeding stock, we're a little more insulated from it. The people trying to improve their herds with the cattle, it will decrease the top end some, but our commodity prices are down for the whole U.S., whether it's pork, soybeans, or cattle, because China's a major partner and customer for agriculture. So, it took a long time to build those markets. Agriculture is very nervous about it. The support for President Trump of trying to change it is higher than many people expected. But I believe it'll be difficult to rebuild those markets. Brazil's already ramping up soybean production to take that market and send a message. I think if you ask most farmers, we'd rather get rid of the tariffs and let us trade rather than trying to do subsidies and use government to dictate the markets.
And do you see any end in sight of it with any of this?
Man, that's a wild card in my mind.
I
think it's going to take a long time to rebuild it, but in the background, there's a lot of pressure about getting this fixed too. So they know they're running, the hourglass is getting towards empty on correcting this, or the ag and rural market will shift against them very quickly.
We stopped off in Landsborough, where we attended a livestock auction and met with some locals.
I think he's doing all right, but I think it's going to take some time to iron out a lot of things. The markets and all that are in a turmoil right now. But like a guy told me years ago, nothing stays good forever or bad forever. I think he's doing a good job.
I was raised to be a conservative Republican. I've done a 180. Unbelievable.
He is part of the people. He understands the people more than what the elite does.
So I have always been a strong conservative, but I do not appreciate what Donald Trump has done to the party that I have always been a fan of.
I don't think he's representing what I believe in and a lot of what the country believes in.
America is fine if people step back and realize that yes, we're trending upward.
He claims to be, representative of the working class, and especially in Minnesota 8, where it's the Iron Range up in Minnesota, and they're all working class people that work hard for their money. And he says these things that people like that respond to, but it's all empty promises. It's all just pandering to them. It's not a real message. It's just telling them what they want to hear, but giving them no real reason to believe that change is going to happen.
Definitely seeing it as a more divided nation for sure.
There's something going on in our country. There's almost this group of people that were never said anything, and now Trump came along, and all of a sudden he's brought these people up, and I think that people. I mean, he goes from porn stars to this to that, and people, and you wake up and you think he's dead. This is gonna put him out. And it rejuvenates him, and people get behind him. So there's a whole culture in our country that you wouldn't think people would like him. And I think they forget about his personal life and his personal side. And they like a guy that's a man of action, and he just does stuff. And I think that's really what has driven our country to keep him going. In fact, I think he's energizing them here at the middle election here.
We stopped off for lunch at Utica, a typical small Midwest town.
We're in Utica, Minnesota. It's a town of about 300 people. We have larger towns on each side of us, and it's a small farming community. The farm economy is not that great around here right now, and that's most of our customers. So, and I think everybody sees that around here. The farm construction guys aren't doing much. The machinery people are not selling much because the farm economy is down.
So do you like Donald Trump? Do you think he's a good
Yes.
guy?
Yeah. I like that he's not a lifelong politician, and I just think we needed someone like him to come in and make a change. But again, the change isn't going to happen overnight.
I do think he says ridiculous things, offensive things, but I don't think that people voted for Trump because they wanted a politician. They wanted a businessman, regardless of what he says.
This was a view we heard more than once on our travels.
He's a businessman. He makes decisions. He's not politically correct, and he's willing to go against all odds. And I admire a person. The way it is, if one person stands up and says something and all the rest of the world goes the other direction, that one person is usually right.
I love Donald Trump. I think we're going in the right direction. I think he's strong enough and tough enough, and he's business savvy. He knows how to negotiate. He knows how to handle the economy, and I do think he's making everything head in the right direction.
Now people are starting to invest again, open small businesses, follow their dreams, and in this country, under Trump's leadership, people are finally coming out and getting that chance again. He's a businessman, and that's what the country needed.
He talked so much about having money and not needing all this and that, and he just doesn't, I don't think, has a grasp of what it is like for most of America.
I do hear on the conservative side, well, he's a businessman and he's, bringing tax cuts. They like that a lot, although these tax cuts, of course, have only gone to the, 1%, the wealthy, so they're not benefiting the middle class or anyone else at all.
I think the economy's, it looks to be doing well. Everybody's spending their money, but I think there's a certain amount of smoke and mirrors going on with that.
I don't care for him. I think he's a poor influence for women and for men. However, with him being in the office, the economy's doing real well.
Well, the economy has improved. We have more jobs back in America. Companies are coming back.
The fact that everybody, at least in Columbus here, if they want a job, they can find a job, and there's jobs going unfilled. So we haven't seen that in a long, long time, and I'm glad for it. I'm worried about the deficit, which seems no one's paying attention to, and obviously I'm always worried about the drug problem. But as far as the big picture of the economy, is going well, and I think that in itself will solve a lot of the other problems.
And of course, in that you've got Pence is more a fiscal conservative, and Donald Trump is a bit more loose with the dollars.
Well, he was a Democrat before he was a Republican.
Just days out from the election, the media started to focus on two issues. One was the so-called human caravan of refugees coming north from Central America, and the other was a pipe bomber who targeted high-profile critics of Donald Trump.
The other thing I think that's very interesting in the last few days is that we got these two wildcard entries into the campaign. One is this caravan that's coming from Honduras and Ecuador, and I'm not sure how many thousand people are in it, but there's a hell of a lot. That's got to be grist. That's got to be manna from heaven for Trump.
I think he's going to try to take care of immigration, and I think that needs to be taken care of. It hasn't been taken care of or addressed. I'm not against immigrants. I mean, nobody can be. We're all immigrants, but we came here legally. Our grandparents, great-grandparents take him legally.
The rhetoric that he's putting out with the caravan that's coming from the south and the anger that he puts out there and the hate that he generates. There's no question that he generates hate. I think that does play a lot into the different scenarios and different events that have taken place that are just atrocious.
I just feel like right now, like job security, there's so many people looking for jobs. To add more people coming in, it makes it a lot harder.
You got the caravan coming up, and most people won't even see that. You'll hear rhetoric and even taking sides there. Well, it's criminals and stuff, and until you get in the picture and you see 3,000 people and a lady carrying her kids that came up from Honduras with 2 kids and walking 10 days, and they're standing at the border in the hot sun.
I have never in my lifetime heard a president speak the way Trump has spoken to the people.
And the other thing is this bomber who's just been arrested, and it looks like he's a partisan, Republican, Trump-supporting, rally-attending maniac.
I think that he promotes the getting rid of people that aren't for you in not so good ways.
Yeah, and so some of the violence that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's totally. I think he totally promotes that. I think he, in some of his speeches that he's made, has actually given thoughts and ideas and actually boosted some people that were maybe thinking to do something to actually go ahead and do it.
I don't think it reflects on Donald Trump. I just think our world's in a mess and people just want to protest anything, and I don't think it has a reflection on him.
Well, I think that at any rally, no matter who is speaking, you're going to have mostly peaceful people coming, and then you're going to have fans, and then you're going to have fanatics. And when you have fanatics, you sometimes have people who go a little bit too far. And this guy went a lot too far now. Whether you can translate that back to his affiliation with Trump, I doubt it. But
So we're driving across the Midwest now. We're coming through Illinois. We've just been to the Hen House Diner, a delightful little place where you can get a prayer placemat, which I've never seen before. And in the same establishment, you can get your copy of Gun News. So they cover life and death at the Hen House.
Indiana is Vice President Mike Pence's home state. I interviewed his biographer, Andrea Neal, at the State House in Indianapolis to find out more about the man and the role he played in the Trump election.
Mike Pence is a typical Hoosier, which means he had a conservative upbringing. He believes in traditional values, particularly with regard to the family. He believes in limited government. He's not an elitist the way so many American politicians are. He's a humble man in the sense of he doesn't have a lot of financial resources, and he doesn't go about bragging about himself. Donald Trump puts Mike Pence on his short list in June, prior to the Republican National Convention in July, and really Trump narrows it down to 3 people: Pence, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and Newt Gingrich. Had he not chosen Pence, Donald Trump might not have been elected. And there's no question that on the campaign stump, Pence won over thousands and thousands of evangelicals who were sort of skeptical of Trump by going to mega churches and by saying, Donald Trump will choose strict constructionists for the Supreme Court. Donald Trump will work to limit access to abortion. Donald Trump will work to deny funding to Planned Parenthood. And these issues that resonated with the evangelical church base were the issues that Pence really focused on during the run-up to the election.
Our last stop in Indiana was Pence's hometown of Columbus.
Do you know him at all, or know of him?
From church, I know of him, yes.
Yeah. And is he well regarded in the community?
Very highly.
I think he's doing okay. I'm Democrat, so I haven't really followed him too much, but I think he's doing okay.
I think he's got a good heart. I think he's trying to do what he feels is right, and I think that he's got some good morals and values that I agree with.
And what is the big issue for you that is motivating you to vote for the Republican Party in this midterm?
More conservative. I think I don't know what the word would be, the Democrats are, I don't know, more loose on some of their thinking, I think, and I like the Christian thought of a lot of the Republicans, and my personal opinion, I think we need to get God back into a lot of this because our country's gone basically to hell in a handbasket, and I think we need to have God back, and I support the ones that are religious. So.
Yeah. So it's more Pence than Donald Trump because he's not very religious, is he?
Well, he claims to be. His behavior doesn't always support that, but he does support a lot of the things that I think religious people support. So.
Behind me you'll see the Stars and Stripes flying at half-mast in remembrance of 11 worshippers murdered in a racially motivated attack on a synagogue in Pittsburgh. Tomorrow we'll travel to that city to witness just the latest of so many mass shootings to have afflicted this country.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Hard Road. To see more stories from our travels in Trump's America, including the 2020 presidential campaign, just click the like and subscribe button.